You may think setters don't need to do very much jump training because they're not hitting, but you would be dead wrong. Setters still need to do a ton of jump training because they still have to block and they're often matched up with one of the best outside hitters on the other team. If you're a setter but your jump sucks, then you become a blocking liability for your team and nobody wants that. Volleyball players have to lift weights. That's not debatable. But what is up for debate is how you should train based on what position you play. If you're a middle blocker, should you train the same as a libero? Or if you're an outside hitter, should you train the same as a setter? I get questions like this all the time on Instagram, so today I want to teach you all of the changes we make with our clients based on the different position that they play. My name is Greg Hersig, also known as the Volleyball Strength Coach. I'm a professional volleyball strength conditioning coach, a former D1 player for Ball State University. I have a master's degree in sports performance, and now I own a company that trains volleyball players online to help them jump higher, hit harder, get out of pain, and overall transform their body. I would say that for the most part, the information and workouts that you see me post on here and other social media platforms are generally directed towards hitting positions, primarily like outsides or opposites. The reason is because those positions are going to have the highest total amount of physical qualities and skills needed for that position, i.e. jump higher, hit harder, get quicker, mobility for defense. Like, you need to be able to do a little bit of everything in those positions. So obviously, if I directed all of my content towards liberos, then there wouldn't be any content about hitting. And if I directed all of my content towards setters, then there wouldn't be much to talk about as far as things like max effort approach jumps. So an easy default is to just talk about all of it and stay very general. And then as for the rest of this video, right out of the gate, I want to make one thing very clear. The training that you do for volleyball, regardless of position, is going to be about 90% or more the same across the board. All volleyball players need to jump higher. All volleyball players need to get stronger. All volleyball players need to increase mobility. All volleyball players need to train for injury prevention. It's just that extra 5 to 10% that we're going to talk about today. So let's start with liberos and defensive specialists because this is going to be the biggest change that we make to training. Obviously, liberos are not super focused on increasing their max vertical, especially not with a full approach. Although, unless you're a college or professional player, I wouldn't immediately pigeonhole yourself into being a libero forever and would encourage you to keep your training more broad so that you can still hit or set if you wanted to down the line. But back to the differences. The main thing is going to be a decrease in overall jump volume and an increase in speed and agility work. For most of our programs, we jump in the workouts 2 times per week. It's either 2 lower body workouts or 1 lower body workout and 1 full body workout. Now, when we train athletes who are liberos or DSs, we take one of those jumping days, typically the second one, and we make that a speed and agility day. We don't eliminate jumping completely because it is still helpful for liberos to be explosive, and sometimes they do need to jump to dig high balls or set in front of the 10-foot line, things like that. So we still want to keep some of that jump training in there for overall just general athleticism. But of course, we're going to be very focused on speed, agility, and quickness, so we want to have a very dedicated training session to that. On that day, we're still going to do some plyometrics, but they're going to be more focused on lateral movements or horizontal sprint speed and less on vertical height. We're also probably going to use drills like the 10-10 cone drill or the pro agility drill, also known as the 5-10-5, as the main measurable tests for that workout. Whereas we typically measure someone's approach vertical in that workout, in this case, we're going to use a measurement of their speed so we can see that they're improving over time. Outside of that, a lot of the training stays the same. We're still going to do a ton of general strength work, we're still going to do a ton of explosive work, and we're still going to do a lot of mobility work. The only other thing that we often adjust is to remove anything that's super arm swing specific if the athlete doesn't care about that. I know these days, depending on whatever level you play, liberos can serve, so if that's the case, we can leave some of that in, but usually it's not the most important thing to focus on. Like I said, 90% of the exercises or more are going to stay the same as any other position. If you want to see what that looks like in application, then there's a couple links down in the description that you can check out. The first is for our super detailed one-on-one elite coaching, which is the single most complete and comprehensive online volleyball training program in the world. And the second is for my VBSC membership, which is access to all of our volleyball specific workout programs that you can follow in our app. Feel free to check those out if you're interested in working with us or applying for one-on-one training. Next, let's talk about setters. You may think setters don't need to do very much jump training because they're not hitting, but you would be dead wrong. Setters still need to do a ton of jump training because they still have to block and they're often matched up with one of the best outside hitters on the other team. If you're a setter but your jump sucks, then you become a blocking liability for your team and nobody wants that. That being said, we don't need to do a ton of extremely specific jump technique work, and we can actually make some slight adjustments to make it more blocking specific. Think like swing blocking. Although the footwork for swing blocking is generally the same, it can actually be the opposite of what your spiking footwork footwork would be. So we need to make sure that that's super dialed in and super comfortable, and even make sure that you can block both directions so that you can triple block or block middle if you need to. Just like with liberos, we don't have to do a ton of arm swing work, but we still want to do a lot of upper body work to make sure the setters have the strength to push the ball through all of the areas of the court. This leads to the last change, which is an increase in hand, wrist, and forearm exercises. Even though setters are serving, they don't typically have quite the same shoulder pain as hitters, so we can often reduce the shoulder exercises, and instead we add in some exercises for wrist strength. Think like wrist curls, grip exercises, and finger exercises to make all of those small little muscles in your hand and forearm super strong. Lastly, let's talk about middle blockers. Middles are going to be about 99% the same as a normal program. There's just some really specific changes we can make if we want to. The main thing is that middles have to get off the ground super fast. Whether it's a shortened approach or whether they just have to get their hands up on a block, they're not always going to have as much time to load and explode on a jump as an outside or an opposite would. So because of this, we can change up the plyometrics and jump training we do to train jump height from a more shallow joint angle. An example would be something like these repeat med ball jumps or seated jumps from a higher box. It's going to be a small change that's extremely specific, so it's not necessarily something everybody needs to do. Maybe just middles who are trying to play at the highest level and need to be the most specific. Again, 99% of the training is going to be the same. So hopefully that was insightful, and hopefully you have an idea that although there's some changes you could make, most of the stuff is the same. If you do want some help tailoring a workout program specifically for you and your position, or even things like your injuries, your equipment, and your goals, then you should apply for our one-on-one elite coaching, where we can make an extremely tailored program specifically for you. It obviously includes the workouts as well as things like your nutrition, volleyball film review, and the coaching and accountability you need to stick to the workouts and overall improve as a volleyball player. It's a one-stop shop for super motivated adult volleyball players who are looking to jump higher, eliminate joint pain, and overall get fitter to get the detailed help they won't find anywhere else. If you want more information on that or to see if you qualify, check out the link in the description. There's also a second link in there for my workout membership, which will give you access to 8 volleyball-specific workout programs, even a speed and agility program for liberos and defenders for just around $50 per month. Also, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss high-level volleyball training content like this.